It's a do or die year, I feel like, for Okie State, and I just don't think that they got it.
Let's get into it. Uh, First off, we're talking schedules tonight. Okay, this one, the first one, easiest schedule. Okay, who has the easiest schedules in the Power Four? Because honestly, I mean Notre Dame is out there as well, but I looked at theirs. They've got a pretty solid one. So we're talking Power Four, independents. Who's got the toughest, or excuse me, the easiest? Looking at it, Trev, you've got a couple teams in mind. Let's talk about them. I don't have mine in order just because it was tough to figure out this year
I
compared to last.
I just kind of started writing down some, and just for the easiest, because it is kind of tough, because there are actually a few that you could probably pick to say that they have the easiest schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But I went with four, and I went off of College Football News's uh, strength of schedule rankings. So if anyone hasn't looked at that, they kind of lay it out pretty decently on why they picked or why they have people where they are. And really, number one on my list is Texas Tech. Number one on the list is Texas Tech. They have according to the strength of schedule ranking, they have the 69th out of the 136 possible rankings. So I mean, they are really, as far as the big four power fours are concerned, they're one of the easiest, I should say. Penn State is another one on my list. Tennessee is on my list, and North Carolina, you're on my list.
Yeah, some of these, it was like I said, it was really hard for me to run through, and I do like the College Football News. They're good publication on trying to get some information, especially in this time of year when there's not a lot of information to look at. They do a pretty solid job. I didn't have Texas Tech on mine. I was just looking. I didn't go off any metrics. I was just giving it the eye test. And any of these schedules can change. You see it every year. It's like, all right, this team looks like it's going to have a really easy schedule, but then somebody on that schedule pops off, so that makes it that much harder. My first one, not really any rankings here, in order, but I went with Wake Forest. Theirs looks pretty manageable to me. Outside the conference, they play Kennesaw State, Western Carolina, and then later they play Delaware. So it's like easy out of conference. In conference, I know it's the final rankings from last year, but SMU is the only one that pops up. Other tough one, Georgia Tech, depending on it, how they roll out. Florida State, maybe we don't know what they're going to be. Hopefully they're better than last year, but we just don't know. So I've got Wake Forest up there. Virginia as well. They're another one that I had on the list. Coastal, they play Coastal on the outside of the conference. William and Mary, shit like that. It's like, that doesn't really pop off. Washington State's not what they used to be. But outside of that, the lone ranked team is Louisville. And again, we'll see. They do play Florida State. What are they going to be? North Carolina State. So it's like a lot of mid-level teams here, is what I'm seeing. So that's why I'm not feeling it. And then you mentioned it, North Carolina, that one, they play Clemson. That's a tough game, but the rest of it's really, you should be able to manage that as a North Carolina team. I know North Carolina is not the North Carolina of the 2000s, maybe when they were actually, doing something, but still, you got to look at the schedule, who they're playing. The other one, BYU was one that interested me. They do play Iowa State, but then the rest of the teams, if it's like they're all question marks. Stanford, new coach. East Carolina, Colorado's got a new quarterback. They're breaking in. Will Salter be it? I don't know. So it's kind of, how are these teams going to break out? West Virginia's new coach. Arizona's, they struggled mightily. Utah's got a new quarterback. So again, it's all these teams are like just interesting. I'm not saying it's super weak, super easy. I don't know. What do you think? Any of those teams, pop off to you that we mentioned?
Right. Yeah. I mean, like for me, I don't know. Like Texas Tech, I see according to College Football News, they have their hardest game being Arizona State, and that's it.
Yeah.
I see Kansas. Utah's in a big transition year.
Yeah.
Oregon State, they have an easier schedule than anybody. They're like they're like 110, I think, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah.
Kansas State is what it is, like whatever. They're probably going to lose to Kansas this year anyway.
Oh. Yeah, I was like, oh, you caught me there. You caught me. No. And Colton's going to get on your ass again. But
it's going to be all year. It's going to be all year, man.
It's got to be. Go. Hey, lean into it.
Okie State. I mean, really, it's a do or die year. I feel like for Okie State, and I just don't think that they got it. So, don't get me wrong, Texas Tech or not Texas Tech, Big 12 in general is a dumpster fire because their schedules looked harder and they looked like they had a hard schedule. It's just because all the teams were trash last year. Like every single one of them they were beating up on each other, but then when they went up against real teams, they kind of got their butt stomped. So
yeah,
I'm hoping for a better, stronger year for Big 12 because when the Big 12 is doing well, when all four conferences are able to put strong teams on the field,
yeah,
it's just better for college football in general.
I mean, it's just tough to gauge,
Right. And then with Penn State, again, does not have to play Michigan, does not have to play Wisconsin. They only have really Oregon and Ohio State. Everybody else, they beat last year.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
just like, I don't know.
So you mentioned Texas Tech, and for me, that one, obviously you try not to really look at the rankings next to because we don't have the legit, like week one rankings out yet, or not that it even necessarily matters. But I'm just looking at teams that might do something. It's like Utah again might. They should be better than what they were, because we both like Dampier. We'll see what he does at quarterback. But then you look, Arizona State. Yes, they should be good again. Oklahoma State, they should rebound. How much though? We don't know. Kansas State, what are they going to be? They should be solid team. They usually historically are always a solid, football team. Tough one to play. And then BYU, that's another one. So that's why I didn't have them on my list because there's a lot of like what ifs. And I guess that's why I just struggled making this list today.
It's a tough one. I mean, the Tennessee Vols, they're in the SEC. So, I mean,
you're right.
There's only so many. Yeah. So it's almost impossible to say they have a super easy schedule. Yeah. However, they play Georgia, they play Alabama. I mean, Oklahoma is a shell of itself. Florida, we think, is going to be an improved team, but they are also going to go through a gauntlet this year. Again.
Yeah, Florida is, yes.
Literally again. And so with that said, I mean, we think, I don't know how you think, but I think that Kentucky should be improved, but
yeah, I mean, the way they go about business, it's like they show something and then they don't.
Yeah. So I think Tennessee has a somewhat easy schedule, but I don't think they're the easiest by any means.
Yeah, no.
But as far as the strength of schedule goes, they don't have a very high strength of schedule.
Yeah, I'm curious to see. I need to go on their page and see what their ranking systems are because, like I said, I like a metric, like something that says why, all right, they're ranked this out of this, and this is the reason. Looking at a couple more of mine that I had, Houston, again, a lot of these are Big 12, ACC. It's just the nature of the beast because the SEC and the Big 10 are loaded with the big names, and the constant powers. The Big 12 and the ACC are, kind of in that transitional period. ACC, especially with Florida State not being good right now. Clemson's at least, picked up the slack there. But then in the Big 12, once you lost Texas and Oklahoma, that you're missing that big dog on campus. You know what I mean? So that's why they're going to be in this. It's not a knock on the conferences. I still think these are tough schedules. I mean, looking at them, it'd be tough for a lot of these teams to run through. But either way, last couple ones that I picked, Houston was one. Again, out of conference, you got Stephen F. Austin, Rice, and then you go play Colorado, Oregon State, Texas Tech. Again, teams that are just, Texas Tech. That's one that we mentioned, schedule-wise, easier schedule. But what's this team going to be? Everybody's expecting them to finally make a run. People have been on them for 2 years. They're going to do it. They're gonna make a playoff push, and then they fall apart. So we'll see what they do this season. Arizona is another one that's on the schedule of Houston. But the biggest one they play is Arizona State. Outside of that, it's the same thing in the Big 12. A lot of these teams are rebuilding and reforming. Next one up on my list, I put Arizona State, just because it's like they do play Mississippi State out of conference, but that's a team that's kind of I'd say a mid tier, nothing crazy. Then they play Texas State. Then they play Baylor, which Baylor I think is a team that can show some stuff this season. But then the rest of it, really, Iowa State's the main name that pops out as somebody that could battle them. So interesting schedule for Arizona State. A couple more that I got. Cal, they needed after last year. We expected them to do much more, and we put their coach again, Wilcox, on the hot seat. Hopefully they can figure it out. But they've got 2 games that kind of Louisville and SMU. The rest don't really stand out to me. Maybe Minnesota.
Cal's definitely got to do something this year.
Yeah.
They have a fairly decent amount of returning players.
Yeah.
I thought they did a great job in the recruiting last year. I thought they would have a strong season, and they couldn't put it together.
Even portal wise, I thought they had it solid. Mm-hmm. But yeah, again, so I've got them on my list for easy schedule, something that they should be able to manage. We'll see. They did lose Mendoza at quarterback though, so that kind of sucks. Let's see. Nebraska was my other one. I've got 2 more. Nebraska being one. Now they do play Michigan. They do play Penn State. They also have Iowa at the end of the year. But the rest of it, you play Cincinnati, Akron, and then the HCU, some FCS team, HCU Huskies. After the Michigan game, you get a bye week. And then it's Michigan State, Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, USC, UCLA. I mean, that should be pretty manageable for them, having, a quarterback that's grown another season. He's had another season to develop. This is Matt Rule's time right here. He needs to utilize this schedule to get into a playoff position. If your 2 main teams, say you lose to Michigan and Penn State, and you're a 10-win Nebraska team, you're going to be in the cusp of that Big Ten and playoff conversation. So that's why I marked them in there. It's a winnable schedule. The last one I had was UCF. Just interesting. Jacksonville State early, North Carolina A&T, and then you play North Carolina. The biggest ones on there are BYU, Kansas State, maybe Baylor or Texas Tech, depending which one doesn't, fall apart, come mid-season. So that was my 10. Again, no order. We'll post these on, I'll make some graphics and throw them out there, what we think are some tough or an easy schedules. So let us know what you guys think, because it's hard to find, it's hard to sort through every single team and see what we think. Trev, anything else on those teams I mentioned, or again, it's just so hard to. There's
so many. Honestly,
last year was so easy.
It was a lot easier. But then again, we got to take into consideration that there's only going to be so many teams with semi-easy schedules, just because of the parity now.
Yeah.
And the how big these conferences are, and the teams that were added, and we're starting to see that these schedules are going to be, no matter what you do, it's pretty much going to be difficult.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we mentioned off air, I'm glad you brought it up, because, you're adding so much to the conferences. It's some of these teams, of course, are like front load. They're heavy schedules. When you talk about toughest, I had a lot more in the toughest column than I did weakest. Just because, you're some of these scheduling makers, I don't know, like for the SEC,
I feel like
Florida got screwed last year and this year. We'll talk about
it. Florida's getting hammered.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know. I agree with you, though. The parity one has changed with the transfer portal. But, 2, just the size of the conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, front-loaded on the heavy talent. And then the Big 12 and the ACC they have a lot of parity where they can knock each other around. So yeah, interesting conversation. Again, let us know what you guys think. Who's got the easiest? Maybe actually tell us who is the easiest, because Wake maybe for me. I don't know. We'll see.